Hey, scrappy people, it's Tracy Reed here today, coming at you with day 4 in my December daily, and I'm just going to tell you in advance, this starts out good, goes completely downhill. I do save it in the end, and I did cut out a large portion of just absolute mistake because, because you didn't need to watch me struggle for an hour and a half. So we'll go over what I did wrong when we get there, but I'm just letting you know that we are all human and sometimes we we all make mistakes. So, speaking of, this tree I designed for my silhouette and then I cut out in pieces using my patterned cards from the Candy Coated Christmas collection, and I reassembled, and it is adorable and I love it, and I should have just like left that as the centerpiece of this layout because it's so cute, but I did not. So what I ended up doing is I used some colored stitching and hand stitched the bottom rows of those branches, I suppose, of the Christmas tree. And the story that I'm telling today is the story of how for the last few months I have not been getting out of the house and exercising the way that I want to, the way that I need to for my mental health. And so one day I made the time, even though I was on crazy deadlines, to go out and go for a run. And the run was definitely a struggle because I haven't been running, and there was this random tree on my normal running path that somebody had just hung a few ornaments from, and it was just such a little sweet surprise, like mood lifting thing that I thought it deserved a place in my December daily, especially in a December daily where a few of my stories, including the very first story, are going to be about the struggle this year that I'm feeling. So I cut down 2 of the Traveler's Notebook signatures into a tag shape. And this is going to be, like, the other side of this tag is going to be day 5 with another story about me that kind of goes with this story. So I kind of pre-designed that one as well, just as I was working on it. And now this is where things start to go downhill. I thought that I wanted to add in some mixed media with my stencils from the Candy Coated Christmas collection. And I'm using the Candy Coated Christmas collection for this whole layout. So I'm going to use some color pops from scrapbook.com and this stencil, and it actually goes fine for the most part. It is a bit of a struggle. This paint is a little bit thin, and so it's like weirdly textured for a stencil, but it was really cool looking. It didn't bother me. I didn't mind that it had some odd texture because that was the whole point, was a mixed media feel. And then I decided to add more down here at the bottom, and you can see that I'm off the mat. And because I was off the mat at the bottom, I don't know if you caught it because it was a little fast, but because I was off the mat at the bottom, a few of the trees at the bottom went outside the stencil, like the paint went outside the stencil. So I ended up turning off my camera, scraping off the paint. So there's like some faint color blobs there now that I'm kind of have to work around and fix in the rest of my design. So that was step 1 of where things started to go downhill just a little bit. I'm going to decorate this tree while I wait for that paint to dry, and I'm using these branches. I don't even know where they came from. They're really old. I just found them in my stash, and I'm using a wood veneer from Freckled Fawn that I ordered this year as part of my small business December daily. And now I'm adding in some die cuts from the Candy Coated Christmas collection, so the whole thing spells out December joy. Then I decided, of course, I need to hang an ornament from the tree. And then I'm using some older Cocoa Daisy. These look like ornaments to me, so I'm using them to decorate the rest of my tree. I was going to do all silver, but then I remembered that the star at the top is gold, so I'm doing silver and gold. And then I want to use this large 4 from Colorcast Designs, and you can click over to the blog post that's linked in the description box, and everything is linked in that blog post. But I have this large 4 from Colorcast Designs. I was going to work it around the actual design of the page, and because it was just a little bit too big for what I had done, this is actually where my page design started to fall apart enough that I start messing things up because I was going to have that large 4 anchor the left-hand side of this page, and then I didn't do that. You can see all this white space that I have on the left-hand side of this page that is going to bother me enough that I'm going to do things that mess up this page. So the first thing I'm going to do is not messing it up, because I really like the way that this looks, is I'm going to add some tulle behind my photo, like tree cluster collage thing. And this helps to cover up those messed up trees down there in the bottom corner that you can kind of see now where I've scraped off the excess paint. So this is going to sort of blur that a little bit without me having to add more die cuts or whatever else to the page to cover that up. So I really like the texture that it adds as well. You can see me still trying to work that 4 in, but it just wasn't happening. I'm gonna have to stick this down. I use tape runner to begin with, and then I actually get my full-size stapler out and I'm gonna staple down like underneath the photo, and then I use my tiny attacher and I staple down places like the trunk of the tree like this, and the star at the top I'm gonna staple down. I initially was going to staple under the star, but then I decided that it would look good and symmetrical to staple the star down. So now this collage, this cluster, is really, really adhered down. Like everything is stapled and glued, and the dork that I am, I'm like, I really need to do something about the right hand or the left hand side of this tree. All of that white space looks off balance to me. It probably was worse in my brain than it was in real life. Like it looks fine, but it's just not the way that I scrapbook. It wasn't enough for me. So I ended up trying to stamp with all of this texture down, and I just cut that whole part out because it was just a disaster. All of this texture made it so that it didn't stamp clearly, and then when I tried to repeat stamp so that it would stamp clearly, I just messed up the stamping altogether. So I just cut off the entire left hand side of this page, and I'm going to add this patterned paper to the left hand side of the page instead, and I end up having to turn off the camera altogether because it just was driving me bonkers. I also needed to replace the trunk of the tree because they were the same pattern and it was too repetitive for me, so I end up using a solid pink piece of paper for the trunk of the tree instead, and this actually started coming out a lot better once I calmed myself, turned off the camera, and just like focused in on how to fix this. So I'm going to use a present from the Candy Coated Christmas collection and a present from Freckled Fawn to finish off this page and cover up some of that white space down there on the bottom. And then I'm going to call it good. So if you enjoyed this video, struggle bus as it was, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Traci M. Reed. Love to see you over there as well, and I will see you next time. Thank you.